Good afternoon, folks. Day, morning, or night, wherever it is. It's always now, wherever me may be. Welcome. Today I'm going to be painting with acrylics. On my painting today, I haven't gotten much done since you've been here last. Thinking about using a mix of primary colors to continue in some shading on what I'm calling the thought box portion. That's kind of the portion I'm going to be focusing on here. And this little, probably should do some touch-ups first, actually. Well, I don't know. I'll do that last. Touch-ups come last because they take the longest. I think I'm going to work on this little quadrant right here. Try to fill the space. Need to connect with it and see what it wants to grow there. It almost looks like it has some sort of layering beginning from the undermatting of the black. I might incorporate that in. So the title of this one is God real? Am I real? What is this place we live in? These are questions that I've been thinking about since I can really remember having coherent thought, since I had words that I could actually work with. I've been really kind of thinking about this. What is going on here? You know, some of us choose to not care about these things. We choose to go on about life and just go to our job and work. And, you know, maybe that's the right way to be. Maybe that's correct. Maybe what us philosophers, shaman, priests, monks, those of us of the existential mind, you know, what is it all about? Why are we here? Why are we doing that? Why are we doing the question of why are we here? You know what I'm saying? Like, what? Why bother with it all? You know, I can't say why you're bothering with it. I can really only say why I'm bothering, and it's a very subjective question. You know, that's maybe one of the things that really matter the most is what is the question? Is it a subjective question? Is it an objective question? Is it a demeaning question? Is it demeaning somebody? A lot of times we'll ask questions and they're not real questions. It's more of a statement, rhetorical question, we call them. Maybe they're just statements to hurt people. I find I make myself these same statements almost off the cuff, you know, like it's very easy to stop being sensitive in a way that allows you to feel what others may be thinking, to have that feeling of the group and where it's at in its conversation. It's very easy to lose that. We get stuck in our own thoughts, we get stuck in our own minds, and it seems like it's the most important thing that there is, that there could be. And, you know, maybe it isn't. A lot of us have played with the idea of actually wanting to be God, wanting to be something that's that powerful as what we've defined or attempted to define as God. And I think that this may be very, very shallow-minded to do, because you really don't know what you're asking for a lot of times. You know, uh, I had an experience that was a rude awakening of I don't really know what I'm looking for. Uh, in my early years of existential theory analysis, I thought that I wanted to gain some sort of powers, some sort of dominion power over existence, some sort of ability to control it, to fly, catch things on fire, control what people think. I had this experience one time that gave me a taste of what that would be. And the onset of the experience was very invigorating, it was very amazing to be interconnected with the cosmos, to feel oneness with the total self, and to have a first chair experience of it. One of the things that in order to do that, you have to kind of remove the self. So that's why you can't really bring anything back, because you don't really go there. It's not really you that's there. It's this fundamental essence, this algorithm that is like the bare minimum of what it is to be you. That's what really experiences the all-knowing. And so you try to bring things back from it, and there is no you there to bring things back to. You're kind of stuck. It's like almost uncomfortable. The first thoughts that you have where it's like actually you thinking single thoughts is you don't want it to happen anymore. That you're ready for things to not be moving. You're ready, you become like ready for not knowing things. That's like the first really experience that you can even really bring back from moksha, is that you don't want to do it anymore, is that you really enjoy love, you really like how that feels, and that's kind of what it's all about, is feeling that sensation of love, what we call love, which trying to define that word is just like silly. Some cultures have had multiple words for what in English we just refer to as love. I think that would actually probably be a better way of describing it, is to have multiple words, because far too often we confuse sexual attraction with love. So much so that people would become mentally attracted to what somebody says, and their sex organs may twinkle a little bit. They may feel a little blood surging through their body because they've become sensitive, because of the endorphins that are released in their brain because of what they just learned. And because they've attributed any attraction to a sexual function of their being, they feel sexual attraction because of that. That's how they allow it to manifest in their mind, is that, oh, I'm sexually attracted to this person. Well, you better not be a man and be attracted to what another man says, because whoa, then you might get the gay bug or whatever. There's people that are extremely homophobic. They're very worried about their sexuality being defined as what would be fashionably acceptable as a rugged man, which has changed many times over the course of history. There is a very, very real time in history where pink was considered strictly a manly color, where pink was like, I don't know if it was necessarily illegal for females to wear it, but I think it was considered highly unfashionable for a woman to wear pink. This may have been in the 1200s. I forget the exact era. Somebody wants to look that up and correct me, and I appreciate it. But there was a definite real time. So when men wore wigs, they thought that it was manly to wear a wig with curls on it. And everybody has seen these pictures. And this is so that's how what used to be manly in the past. Well, how does being manly in the past change? To the future. Man, well, I don't think we're really genetically changing that much to where our fashion should be changing. It's fashion. It changes like the wind. And who's in control of it? No one ever asks these questions of who's in control of fashion because no one wants to get made fun of. But that's really what it is. That's really what controls fashion. Logic doesn't control fashion. Uh, principality can kind of control, civil principalities can kind of control fashion because they can say, oh, it's illegal for men to dye their hair purple now or whatever. They can make rules and regulations that can cause stipulations on fashion. But who really controls fashion? Now, it's like a bully. This is something we all don't look at. The bullies control fashion. And who likes the bully? I don't think very many people actually like bullies. I think everybody's just kind of afraid to stand up against the bully. Afraid that they're going to be the one made fun of next. So I don't want to get made fun of. If someone jumped on here and started making fun of me, I can't say that that would be enjoyable. It probably wouldn't be enjoyable. In fact, I've actually, there's been times when I've gone onto forums and I've tried to enter conversations that I knew would be uncomfortable, that I knew I would be challenged in my beliefs. And I think that this is a healthy thing to do. I wouldn't say that it's healthy to, live with a cynic your entire life and expect to not be cynical. I think that that's kind of a foolhardy, bird and feather fly together kind of thing. I'm looking at my journal. I got this journal that I carried with me through my travels. And it's about 30 years old. And, I'm looking through here and like, boy, I was really focused on figuring out how to break into God's secret vault. I was really trying to find some kind of secret here. Another thing I've always been very interested in also, and I think that this is kind of the ground of where society could be made better. If you guys want to make society better, here's what I think would do it. I think that if everybody focused on psychological vampirism and didn't tolerate it anymore, I think there's a lot of people out there that don't realize that they're being vampirized, that they're having somebody that's being a Schadenfreunde. In German, auf Deutsche ist es Schadenfreunde. In German, it's called shady friends, which translates very well in English, surprisingly. Shady friends are people that kind of act like your friend, but they're shady towards you, Like they're kind of actually out to always make you feel bad. A lot of us get stuck hanging out with these people because we're wanting to impress them. These people, they make us feel bad, but we still want to impress them. Why? They're making you feel bad. Somehow, these are the people that end up in a lot of fashionable power. And surprisingly, I've noticed a lot of them are not even actually very fashionable. They're trying to follow what they think would be fashionable. So you got the leaders chasing their tails. It's oh, it's just kind of funny when you see the full truth of some things, when you see the full circle, and you realize, that you were pushing that cog along yourself. It's so hard not to. We're thrown into existence. It's no anybody that is, of all the ways to identify somebody that's enlightened, I think it would be compassion. I think you would look for how compassionate people are towards other people's behavior and towards other people's theories and in general just towards other people. Now, mind you, I'm extremely guilty of this. This is something I notice about myself consistently, is that I am quick to be incompassionate with people. I'm quick to think that they're out to get me, that they don't love me, that they're out to hurt me. Um, take it back and look at my life. I think that a lot of times I was surrounded by psychological vampires that were victims themselves, most likely. But it's easy. We have to remember that we're born alone on this stage. We're an actor all alone. We're a dog without a bone on this stage of life. And you come down and you don't even know words at first. You know what I'm saying? You're just kind of like, and it's very valuable when you're an adult if you can return to the childlike state of mind. There's value in it. But as a child, you're just like a sack of potatoes that gets put here and gets put there, and sometimes it gets real uncomfortable, and then you start crying, and then luckily mom and dad, they put some food in you, or they take the diaper off you, or whatever was causing your problem. And then you're stuck trying to learn in this on your own way. Like there's so little to grab onto in understandings when you're a child. It's uncomfortable. That's one thing we forget as adults, is how uncomfortable being a child was. Um, and I think that maybe that's one reason why we get to a state and we don't want to delve into things we don't know, because it's uncomfortable. It's referred to as cognitive dissonance. When you learn that you don't know everything. And this is kind of like the dirty secret. Everybody thinks they know everything, like all the time. In fact, if you didn't think you knew everything that you're talking about, we say, I don't mean everything, but you think you know everything. And you kind of have to, otherwise you get uncomfortable. You get confused, and there starts to be a bunch of big questions. And so we do this like normalcy effect in our brain, where we just kind of like ignore the stuff that we don't know, and we just act like, oh, that's something that I don't know, and I know that I don't know that, so that you have this like concrete thing to grab onto. Oh, I know that I don't know that. So you grab on and you hold on to it. And it's not easy. You don't even have words yet to understand reality with, let alone your eyes, and all your perceptions are just unwired, and they don't make sense. As you're seeing colors and shapes, you don't have words for it to even understand it. So it's just kind of like a story that's going by. But in this state, it's egolessness. In this state, you can feel things as though they're part of you that are not naturally part of you. And you have understandings that you don't even know you know. And there's a lot of different tests that I could show you where children are way smarter than we may think them to be. That their deductive reasoning skills are very, very, very high. And their mental plasticity is at such a level that they learn so rapidly that sometimes they don't even know that they've learned something. It's just assimilated. The brain is on this like assimilation stage. So if you can get your mind into that state, there's a lot that you can gain from that, especially in the adult life. That's what a lot of the mental techniques are about, is about refining that ability to enter the oceanic state of mind, the oneness. The oneness. That's something in it and of itself. The oneness. Do we really want oneness? I don't know, man. Especially in this modern world, it seems like we're so consumed with individuality that I don't know how much we'd actually like oneness. I think I'm going to make this like a sunset or something right here. Kind of looks like it might be a sky, or like there's a sun or something. There's something kind of coming out here, right in this spot right here. Feel free to comment in there what you think might be in here. In this area right here, in this thought bubble that's transmitting over to the circuit board, that's what's going on here. This is like a thought bubble that's being converted over into reality through a quantum converter. That's what this is. Oh, you can't see it on the camera. The quantum converter. So the thoughts are going through the quantum converter, and then they get spewed out in as reality through the quantum converter. But first, they have to be generated in the mind. And that's kind of what I'm working on here. What's she generating in the mind right here? What's this portion of the thought bubble mean? I think it might be a sunrise. I'm thinking that might be a sunrise. Looks like we already have kind of dark skies rising and a little bit of kind of sun coming up there too. Maybe a sunset. I can't tell. What do you guys think? Is she looking east or is she looking west? That's going to define, are we looking at the sunset or the sunrise? I'm not exactly sure what I see here yet. I might have to move on to something else. Sometimes if you really want to get a bead on something that's really, really weird, it's like this creative process. We've all experienced it. You wake up from a dream, or you get done working out, or you're on your way to work, and you have these ideas, right? You're like, oh, boom! It's this huge bubble of thought where it's like exactly what you're going to paint, exactly what you're going to write, exactly where you're going to go. But then you sit down to actually work. It's like, okay, now I'm going to paint, and it's not like a faucet. You know what I'm saying? You can't just push a button and like inspiration comes out. I that's what a lot of monks are about. I think that they're trying to live in this flow state where they kind of live in this mystical inspiration state. And it takes a lot of effort. And I would really say that you can't do it. You know what I'm saying? You can't make yourself get inspired because inspiration comes from outside of you. Man, so how do we get it to happen? There's yoga, there's chemicals. You can use chemicals for inspiration, alter your perceptive mind, your perceptive mental filter with chemicals. There's all sorts of chemicals to do that with. And then there's just kind of getting into inspiration where you're just kind of living as an inspired state. But it's so hard to live like that because uh, you have to chop wood and carry water. There's times when you have to wipe your butt, when you have to go pee, when you have to eat, when you have to make toast, or something dumb, that doesn't have any huge meaning behind it other than you need to refuel yourself. And it's mundane. And we get trapped in these mundane behaviors. But I tell you what, the the journey that I had through the lessons of chop wood and carry water, I think that has yielded me some very, very powerful discipline. And I think that if one is to ever make inspiration happen, it's going to require discipline, you know, unless you're just gifted. We can become a gifted person and just everything that comes out of us is just inspired crazy coolness. I haven't really met any people like that seem sane, that seem functional enough to where it's not like uncomfortable. How can one achieve discipline? It's a question I just received. Hello, Darian. Um, this is a question that I've been really pondering on a lot recently. How can I get discipline? And I think that discipline is honed. I don't think it's like a cookie that you can go and buy and eat and have it in you. I think it's something that every single day you have to make a decision to go. And that follows the definition of discipline. Discipline is not something that happens upon its own. It is something that has a motivator behind it. You have to push it. It has to be you. So I think that if we're trying to the goal, let's say the goal is to make yourself inspired about things. Well, that is a discipline. To make yourself do something is a discipline. And it doesn't happen, like bodybuilding. No one's going to get you out of bed. No one's going to make you eat 6,000 calories a day. No one's going to make you do 100 reps a day. No one's going to make you do that stuff. And like you can get yourself into a rhythm where it's not as hard, to get going. But and one of the goals that is the foolhardy goal is the search uh, for permanence. And if anything is permanent, I think it's searchingness. I think that's the only thing that can last forever is looking for something. by the definition of being a thing, it puts a limit on its existence. There's boundaries. In order to be a thing, there must be boundaries. And one of the boundaries of discipline, because it's a thing, is that there's a self-motivation factor. And some people have that motivation factor and some people don't. And here's something that I believe about motivation factors. I think the motivation factors are dependent on suffering. I feel that suffering has been historically one of the greatest motivators in humanity. Is that it seems like people, unless they are suffering, they won't make much of a jaunt or a journey. They're not going to try very hard unless they have to. We have these individuals, these great ones that have come to us where they're very self motivated, but the majority of us are not that way. We just aren't. Uh, every day, you got to wake up and you just don't want to get out of bed. And you just got to push. You know what I'm saying? It's like that. Either you're going to suffer and then be inspired, or your suffering is pushing to be inspired. So I guess one of the little things that I kind of saw one time is that there might be a hack to this. And so I designed what I call Plangite yoga. And it's kind of a very difficult thing to do because of how painful it is. It's painful on a very different level than one may think. It's not stretching or cutting your skin. It's disintegrating the very image and idea of self. Um, for instance, one of the things that I kind of hold dear to myself is my physical prowess. I feel that I've been given a gift of some speed. I have a lot of speed, I have a lot of strength, and I have a lot of physical endurance. And I kind of hold that dear to me. I'm like, I'm a strong man. So once a week, I will remind myself on a very deep, very full faceted level of how weak I truly am, physically and mentally. Where I go and I shatter my very existence of self, where I just totally put myself in the mindset that everybody's dead and everybody hated me to begin with. And I really was just a stupid little bacteria worm thing wiggling around down in this solar ash of a ball. And then it was all for nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's all just a stupid for nothing. Through this, it humbles me. It puts me in a state where the me kind of isn't there, where I'm not dependent on a me for being correct or being wrong. I don't have to defend a me. I can just know the information. I can just see what is and know what is and just go with what truly is. I don't have to try to know what's right. I don't have to know what's wrong. I don't have to be anything. There's no, I remove the boundaries of self by this. And by removing these boundaries of self, I find it easier to enter a state of inspiration, to walk a life of mysticism. I feel that to do that the self continually inputs data on, like, I want people to look at me this way. I want to be validated in this way. I want to have this stuff in my life. I'm afraid that I'm going to die. Uh, my poop smells, whatever it is. You're consumed with these thoughts, these self-loathing, self-perpetuating self-thoughts. And so if you can get rid of those thoughts, then they don't get in the way of your inspiration. because consciousness in quantum mechanics is right on my tail on proving this to the mainstream thought, is that consciousness in its essence of what it is the essence of reality. So literally the nothingness, not empty space, nothingness, which is different than empty space, the very essence of existence is consciousness. And so if you remove, all you have to do to get in contact with that is remove the sense of self. So all you have to do to enter the inspired state is go away. So if you want to become inspired, if you want to be enlightened, go away. And then it's there. Everybody's enlightened. Everybody knows it all. Everybody all the time. It's just this little skin, this little Ivan skin that I peel over my consciousness, these memories of where I did and what I did and who I am and how people react to me and how I feel about other things and all these little subjective opinions. That's what Ivan is. That's what the me is. That's what the veil is. The web of life is the veil. It's easy to get caught looking at a single tree and not see the forest. It's hard to see the web when it is you, when you are the web. I mean, guess as to what this material is right here. Is that paint? What is that? I like to use a lot of different materials in my paintings. I use everything I can. Paint and a lot of different materials. I've been working on this painting. It's been over a year, probably going on 2 years now. I just kind of let it grow out. It kind of starts and then it grows and 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 just gets bigger and bigger and more. And really, I'm just kind of working on this one little spot right here, right now. I'm waiting for the inspiration to come. Just waiting. Something's there. And it's like it's materializing, I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take and down on these lines, like right here on this like horizon kind of portion, on this event horizon of the horizon, right down here in this line, I think I'm going to take some titanium white, and then I'm going to mix it with like a lunar yellow, and then I'm going to come and just put a thin line right on the border of this brown kind of thing here, just to kind of bring like a highlight on it, give some more definition to that. A question I've been asked a lot is how to perform mental techniques. How do we do these things? And, there's several steps to getting into high level magic. I've been talking to some people recently about arcane and divine magic and the difference between arcane and divine magic. The real, one of the real differences is that when you perform arcane magic, you did it, right? Like you did it. When divine magic happens, it's like a miracle, man. It's like something came out of nowhere and boom, saved your ass. That's the difference. And I think that's the real allure to arcane magic is that we want to be in control. We want to see ourselves as super powerful, you know. And so the allure of arcane magic is just that, is this ultimate self power. But I mean, if we look at the movies and we look at, and you look at what your heart's telling you, dude, everybody that looks for absolute power, it always ends bad. You know what I'm saying? There's no one out there that's like trying to get absolute power so that I can save the little children in Jamaica. You know what I'm saying? You don't see that guy like bringing food to the homeless people. You don't see that guy bringing medical supplies to the wounded. In our society, we've been driven towards this self-fulfilling glorification thing. And it gets you in a lot of different ways. It's hard not to. Who doesn't want to be a badass? Who doesn't want to have the most? It almost seems like maybe that's the purpose behind being a single thing, is trying to get everything. Until you really start to see the truth of it. If you live in a world of getting, where you're trying to get, where what your mission is to get stuff, then what your average world is not having a sense of like near hopelessness of not having. If you're out to get stuff, that's what your life is about. Out to get, then it's a life of not having. There's this technique, kind of like the secret technique. And one of the functions behind it is the law of attraction. But there's something a little bit closer to the steering wheel than the law of attraction. The law of attraction is just kind of like a function behind how things move. It's just like energy moves towards magnets. It's just like saying, magnets work. Law of attraction is like saying magnets work. They attract stuff, but it doesn't really help you get anywhere with it. In this, what I got here, what I'm going to teach is very, very difficult to grasp, even once you get it. So the fundamental, we all ask this question, we'll have things happen and we'll be like, oh shit, did I make that happen? Or did I perceive it going to happen before it happened? I think it's both. I think it's both. I think that like you can kind of see where you're going on the trail, and that what I'm saying, if you're on a trail with no steps and it's just flat, you don't expect to encounter a mountain. You expect to continue on flat. But if you're on a trail with steps that's going uphill, you know what I'm saying? It's pretty obvious what's happening here, right? But it's not really quite as easy as that, because how you create your reality is in the very, very future. Now what we describe as now, which is kind of like this second hand ticking away, now is not even really actually now. Now is actually the past. Um, we'll never be in now, but we're always in now. Our consciousness is there. Okay, that's kind of a little background. Now, here's what you have to start to do to get there. You have to start to get in contact with your conception of perceptions. So when you perceive things, there's kind of this mechanism that goes on in the cerebral cortex in the Wernicke's area and the ganglia reticula, the frontal cortex, and the prefrontal lobe, and the hypothalamus, and a couple other little functions of the brain are responsible for filtering data. So data comes into the brain, and you filter it out through all these different processes of the brain. Most of it actually goes to the hypothalamus, and then to the hippocampus, and then to different areas of the brain. So what you have to do is you have to get in contact with the hypothalamus. You have to get in contact with these lobes of the brain and get functional control over them. It's not so easy as getting control of your hand. Your hand you have very, very overt control over. But all functions of the body you can control. I'm not going to go into proving that out. You're going to have to do a lot of research. But there's a lot of people out there that have proved that. Just a couple years ago, scientists said that you can't control the vagus nerve. And even then, I knew that it was a lie because I've been controlling when I first started teaching myself how to hunt when I was a child, hunting squirrels in the woods. I knew that they could hear you breathing. So you had to control your breathing. Yeah. So and then by controlling my breathing, I gained these other auxiliary controls of my body. And that's where it is. You have to control your breath. It's in the fundamentals of everything is in your posture and your breathing. I mean, it's really stupid. It's like such a stupid, easy thing, but it really kind of fundamentally starts there on a very, if you want to be really proficient at it, you have to really focus on those kinds of things. Because your breathing is like the fuel of your brain, it fuels your brain, but also the rhythm of your breathing you can control. And your breath is kind of like the controller of everything else. So if you can control the controller, then you're in control. And it starts with your breath. I refer you to the Iceman. If just one quick kind of one-stop shop on figuring out if Ivan's lying to you about this, you want to go and research the Iceman. The Iceman has control over his vagus. He's actually just uses Buddhist techniques, a lot of the Buddhist meditation techniques of breath control and posture control. They facilitate this process. So basically, through the breathing, you gain control over your body, and then you have to really quiet your mind, and you have to start to feel. And it's not see, but it's kind of a see. You see, feel, know, hear the process happening. After a while of focusing on how you're actually interpreting reality, you begin to like recognize patterns. Like you'll start to recognize patterns. That's one thing the brain is great at. It really recognizes patterns well. So you'll start recognizing these patterns, and you keep at it. You keep going, and you start to notice that when you think like this, it's not the thought that you have. It's a way that you're thinking about things that you're trying to control. You're not trying to control how you see the color red. What you're going to control is how you feel red interacts with your life. How you feel about red. How you feel the color red or the person red is in your life. Well, if you feel that person is beneficial to your life, then you're going to go more towards the beneficial time thread. That's another thing quantum science has alluded to, is that there's all these different realities going on. I believe that they are. But here's the thing, they're not real. There's something about the human brain and the human being that forms this complexity of patterns. And this complexity of patterns, it's like it creates a realization of what's around it. It seems that a lot of these other realities, these other time threads, they don't have all the aspects of reality in them. so they don't manifest as reality. And they manifest as imagination or dreams or thoughts. But when you get down to the nitty gritty and you start really getting to where you're controlling your conceptions of your perceptions, that's when you start to have the ball in your court. That's when you start to be like, okay, in my reality, everything's going to be good. And that's really what it boils down to is you just kind of start thinking stuff like that. Like, you know, in this reality, I've noticed that I'm not going to have a lot of financial concerns, and that I'm still, and you got to really be real with yourself. So you're not going to end up in unicorn pony land where everything's fun and happy and there's a free buffet everywhere. That's not real. That disobeys so many laws of energy. You got to think about that. There's like, in order to realize an existence, it has to follow laws that can be real. You know, if the laws are conflicting, then it's not going to be able to manifest. You know, so you got to really be honest with yourself. And I don't think you can really get there till maybe that's one of the very first things. That's one of the first things I look at when I'm taking on a student or when I'm even taking on a friend is I look for the amount of self-honesty that they have. I can tolerate somebody lying to me to a certain degree. You know what I'm saying? Like if they're lying to me about something they did or somewhere they went or something they know, trying to impress me, that's cool. It's almost just like, hey, that's a fun story. I just go through it and I don't even really care. You know what I'm saying? I listen to it and I like fully believe. Like I won't even doubt a little bit. I'll just fully they could, tell me that they've traveled to Mars and that they, ate soup with Roger Rabbit or whatever. And I don't even care, man. I'll be like, oh wow, I'll just like let it be real. I don't care if it's real or false. But in that I don't care if it's real or false. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter because I know what reality actually is. It's not phasing my experience level. You know, that's another thing. You want to when you become honest with yourself, you get this security in yourself. You start to really trust yourself. And I think that, when you find people that are very distrusting of other people, I think it's because they lie to themselves a lot. And why would you lie to yourself? Well, I'll tell you why you'd lie to yourself because you're with yourself all the time. And if you start thinking you're a jackass, then you're surrounded by somebody that thinks you're a jackass. But it's hard, dude. It's hard not to lie to ourselves all the time, to always be cold hard honest. It really is, and I don't blame people for not wanting to exist in the cold hard reality of truth. Because there's a lot of things we want to hide from ourselves about other people, about how other people think about each other. That just hurts, dude. It just hurts how we think about each other a lot of times. Uh, Maybe not you and I, but a lot of people really do think down on one another. And I think we feel that on a very subjective level. Um, I just had a big light change. I know what it is. My light turned off. But look, it changed. Hooray. Yeah, so this is only like my second time doing this, guys. I'm going to try to improve my technology as time goes on here and get cooler tech and make this more fun. I hope you're enjoying this, dude. I haven't really been super prepared so far as Everything's falling down right now. Like I can't. Everything's just. It's so hard. Like what I'm dealing with right now. It's stupid. Like the lights and the camera and. Anyways, but we'll get better technology, dude, and this will be fun. And maybe we'll get some more subscribers or something. And so what's the mission? What are we doing here? Well, what my mission is I want to talk about cool stuff, and and I want to have fun, and I want to be challenged in my beliefs, and I want to get rich. I mean, I want to feel rich from this, not monetary wise, but I think it's enriching to share yourself on a deep level, because once you become honest with yourself, if you don't go out and be honest with others, then you start to lose the self honesty. I think that's the trial, is that we get honest with ourselves, and that's easy because eventually you kind of accept that you're a piece of shit, and then you move on. You're like, okay, yeah, I'm an idiot. I fuck up all the time. So what? I'm always making mistakes. You get kind of used to it. But you're not used to being honest and real with other people. There's almost like no way to be used to that because it's always a new experience. There's always something new. And do we encounter that, or do we just become like a recluse, hide in our house? That's easy too, because then you're not uncomfortable. You don't have to experience cognitive dissonance. You don't have to realize you're wrong about something. You just sit in there and just be programmed on the couch and eat cheese puffs, you know, and go to Walmart. Walmart's actually a pretty nice store. Like they've offered a lot of things. I just wish that everybody had like the mindset of like society creators. That's something that we could really do for is like everybody just kind of started like taking this seriously and stopped just trying to get more for themselves. And it's easier to say than do, of course. Uh, how do you give of yourself if you don't have a lot to give? If you're hungry and starving, how do you give food? I think it can start with just giving smiles. I think that we kill each other a little bit each time that we're like rude to another. We don't validate that somebody's cool too. But that ain't easy on its own. Like a lot of times, uh, one of the things I feel, and I've always kind of felt this, and maybe it's just kind of like me, like a little thing that I'm feeling, but it seems like a lot of times people are really focused on getting looked at for what they have. And that they think that because they have more, that like they deserve to be first in line or something, that they're like better in this way. And there's definitely some things that can play into that, like people that don't have a lot, they're probably gonna have lower hygiene and stuff. They're not gonna care about their discipline. A lot of times, uh, one of the things that follows success is discipline. There's a high correlation between discipline and success. You can't say that everybody successful is highly disciplined, and you can't say that everybody's disciplined is highly successful, but on average, those that have high discipline will achieve success in life. So again, how do we get discipline? Well, you come to a teacher. You come to somebody that will put you through shit and put you through the course and let you know when you're being lazy and let it's cold and hard with you. That's why some of the dialectics where people are real hardcore and they're real hard edged, why those do very well, because you really feel that you're getting somewhere. You know you're doing something because shit, it hurts. You know, like, oh, I got it. This has to be worth something. I have to be going to heaven for this because it hurts, dude. You know, all the sacrifice I'm doing, this is actually hurting. So it must be good, you know? That's the trap that we get stuck in. And it's easy to get stuck in that trap. Those are everywhere. Those pitfall traps are everywhere, man. Uh, do we set them for ourselves? You know, a lot of times it's hard to not think that there's some sort of adversary out there to get you. And here's what I'll tell you I think it is. I think the same adversary that's out to get you is the same guy that's out to save you, which is why one should be very, very cautious about announcing that they're going to be enlightened. You should never announce that you're going to become enlightened, because Satan will be right there waiting for you. As soon as you announce, oh, I'm getting enlightened, boom, dude, Satan's right there. And he's going to shower you with temptations. Maybe we found a hack here, folks. Maybe if we tell Satan that we're going to get enlightened, he'll shower us with lottery numbers. That's how you do it, dude. I knew it. That's how you win the lottery. First, you make an announcement. Hey, Satan, guess what? The only thing that's going to stop me from becoming enlightened is winning $350 million. Ha 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 ha. And then you get 350 million, right? Isn't that how it works? Come on, Satan. No, that's not how it works. What'll happen is, like, you're gonna say you get enlightened, and then like your wife and cat are gonna die or something. Like something's really bad's gonna happen that you can't possibly plan for. That's how he's gonna tempt you. You know, Satan's smart as shit, dude. He's an archangel. You know, archangels are wicked intelligent, man, and he was considered like one of the top ones. So, and he's had millions of years to make plans and study human beings. Like, dude, I don't trifle with Satan. The dude scares me. Here's a little secret that I think about Satan. Satan is you and me. We are Satan. And that's why you can't get away from him, dude. That's why we can't get away from him, because I think it's like I think it's like this. Consciousness has gone through a lot of different episodes with life. And in one of these episodes of life, consciousness got very, very uh, malevolent, very self and outwardly malevolent. And I think that in one of the episodes, the self became very benevolent, or maybe started out benevolent. And I feel that these selves exist in this quantum time. That's actually a good little point, Darian. I really see what you're saying there. The negative part of an atom. Uh, I'm always a little cautious about terminology like negative and positive, yet I use them often. You know, it's and it's connotation. You know, oftentimes when we hear negative, we think, you know, evil or bad. And sometimes, you know, typically when we hear positive, we think, oh, that's going to be good. But it's how do you describe things? How can you possibly describe things without using some sort of connotative linguistics? I don't even know how to start doing that. Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Where I thought you were going with that is how the electron has created separation, and that's another thing that Darian and I share in common is that this like composition of reality of how things kind of like have compounded in their creation. Things compound and complexify from a singular state. Um, and it seems that, and I mean, we can synthesize this with technology. That's how they generate worlds in video games. Is they use fractal algorithms and in accordance with those different aspects, and then it just kind of self generates on those algorithms. No one really, like a lot of maps that are created in games, like no one went in and like made each little thing right where it's at. A lot of times they can just like landscape mountains, they can just generate them with algorithms, fractal uh algorithm, a fractal equation generates lines kind of like naturally. It's kind of a natural generation process. And so using those variables and the fact that everything kind of comes from itself and emanates from itself, that's I can really see where starting from a singular energy state, all of the complexities of reality can kind of come from a singularity, uh, using a compounding complexifying equation in combination with fractal equations. Like if you put those two ideas together, you're generating a mass spectrum of variables are going to be generated. And so I think that we can use that theorem to kind of work our way back and deduce where kind of things come from, and where's the value in this. Like let's keep it practical. Why are we doing this? Well, so we can see how things work. If you see how things work, and then you can deal with the subtle energies correctly, because all of existence is compounded of subtle energies. If you break down the atomos, the uncuttable, the atom, the search for the uncuttable of the finite essential building block, what they found out is that it's just nothingness vibrating. What I'm saying? Like it's just, energy, which is just vibration in empty space. And so if we see where these subtle energies work in to the complexities of patterns that we're utilizing to navigate this specific reality that we wish to live in, that becomes real. Like all of a sudden, you can put that all together and be like, wow, you see how it works together. You know that the more you go this way, the more negative things you're going to bring into your life that have these sort of aspects. I'm trying to think of some examples right now of how that actually plays out in real talk. We you it's like you can't change everything out there suddenly too fast. I just like in healing, like if you're healing something, like let's say you're healing your posture, let's say that over years you allowed your posture to get very bad and you're trying to heal your posture. Well, there's a lot to heal in that. You have your feet and your knees and everything. If you shift your back too much, too fast, you'll upset your digestive system, and then you'll go into what's called a healing crisis. to where because you tried to heal so much over here, you actually kind of threw all these other things off. Especially in dealing with your posture, this can happen because your digestive tract and your neural system are all heavily affected by your posture and your respiratory system. Your respiratory system, your digestive tract, and your neural network are all extremely affected by your posture. So if you move too fast, like if you shift too quickly from a very bad state to a very good state, and this goes for anything, to give it a visualization, you make waves. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're trying to get to one side, if you're in a boat and you're trying to get to the other side of the boat and you jump around and jostle around a whole bunch, the boat's going to shake all over the place and you're going to make a bunch of waves. But if you just move, one step at a time and just doop, doop, boop, deep, boop. And no real sharp, jacky movements, just very subtle, soft, easy movements. And you don't make waves, you don't jostle the boat, you don't rock the boat. That same theory plays down into healing. It plays down into healing which time thread you're in. Because perhaps you're in a time thread where you are in dis-ease. And a lot of times, if in your life state, your life state is of dis-ease, this will oftentimes manifest as a physical disease. So the dis-ease of the spirit will manifest in the body. If you have dis-ease in the spirit, it will manifest in the body. You will go to the time thread where you are sick, if that's what you believe. If you deep down, you're like feeling and thinking like, oh, I'm always just sick. And no matter what, I'm going to take all this medicine. I'm still going to be sick and da, 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 da. And you keep telling yourself over and over and over again, you keep putting that energy into that time thread, into that future. Eventually, that future that you're putting that energy into, that future will become now. Because, and here's another little thing that I found, it's very true, is that your thoughts can have like time dependencies on them. When you get into conception of perception, what you find is that your thoughts a lot of times have time dependencies. You'll be thinking stuff like, oh, I always feel that way about this, and it'll be something in the past. Or, oh, I'm always going to feel that way about this, and then it'll be something in the future. This, I believe, that this is you actually sending energy into those time threads, into those existences. You're steering your boat towards that way, or you're sending messages back to yourself in the past, which can work two ways. If you make a right decision, think about yourself in the past, receiving the knowledge of you making the right decision. See yourself do it. Feel it. Feel CB. There needs to be a word for that. Feel CB. Feel CB it in the past and the future. You can use this in both ways. You can even get to a point where you're actually, what I'm saying? Like the rubber will start to meet the road on this, to where you're kind of starting to program what happens right now. I can't say that I've like manifested the Dallas cheerleaders in my basement or anything like that. But I think that it's more subtle than that. You know what I'm saying? You can't, I think there's more subtle energies that you're working with when you're doing these kinds of things. And then it's important to keep that in mind. And life ain't easy, man. Life is hard. We can die, we can get sick. A lot of things can go wrong here. There's a lot of bad ends. And there's some real certainties to life. You will suffer. You know that. So because you're going to suffer, like you shouldn't run from it. You should see where you have to suffer and almost run to it. Because like I said earlier, what comes after suffering? Learning. Discipline comes from suffering. So that's your answer, bro. How does one achieve discipline? Suffering. That's how we achieve discipline, I think, is by suffering. Because discipline, maybe we have to suffer to start to form discipline, and maybe discipline is suffering. You know what I'm saying? Because if let's say it's fun and it's good, and you don't want to stop doing it, that's not discipline. That's entertainment. You know what I'm saying? That's fun. So it's like I can't. So maybe there's a rule of thumb. If you want to lead a disciplined life, you have to lead a life of doing what you don't want to do, of suffering. I think that with that, there's something important to be said, is that the suffering should not be foolhardy. It shouldn't be suffering for a masochistic principle. It should be suffering because you have to. Because you have to do this suffering in order to obtain this goal. The suffering, I think, is beneficial if it's goal oriented. But if it's just like tolerating somebody screaming in your ear because you want to think you're like strong enough to tolerate it, I don't think that that's suffering. I think the only discipline that results from that suffering is you being able to tolerate stuff. You know what I'm saying? Do we want to be able to tolerate? I mean, some stuff you have to tolerate. And then there's some stuff none of us should tolerate. Like a lot of there's suffering that other people make people go through that no one should tolerate. That people tolerating it is why it persists. And I think maybe some of that stuff you can't even like hardly do anything about. And that you make yourself suffer by trying to do something about it. It's like a koan. It's like a trap, dude. It's a trap that's out there. Some of them are traps, like they're just out there trying to get you to get entwined in their bullshit and suffer with them. You know, I've noticed that about a lot of people that are in a state of suffering, is that they don't want to be alone. They want their state of suffering like validated in this way. And then they seek to bring you into it. I call these Schadenfreunde, Schadenfreunde, shady friends, or psychological vampires. And there's a lot of them, dude. I've noticed aspects in mainstream culture which actually promote psychological vampirism and voidism. I don't know if I've talked to you about what I consider voidism. I consider one of the great malady diseases of society, I feel, is voidism. Uh, Now, I haven't seen very many other people even really have theories on this. I've some of what Freud has written. and Campbell and Smith and a lot of other psychologists have kind of hinted on this, but I don't think anybody's really given it like a whole. They call it neurotic. A lot of times they'll call it neurosis. But neurosis has been it's such like a blanket field that I think that there needs to be some refinement, and I think that voidism is one of them. Voidism is, and this is going to, I remember reading from my journal here, the concept that focuses on characteristics of male and female humans and the interactions between them and the reasons for interpersonal views and self-esteem problems. The main attributes of void theory are there's an absence of acknowledgement of self, materialism, and avoidance of existential conversations. Actually, a lot of these people, they avoid certain things. I think that one of the fundamentals, a lot of females, I feel, a lot of females that suffer from neurotic behavior and neurotic mental attributes, I feel that they actually suffer from voidism. And I think it starts at a very early age. I think it starts when we're discovering our bodies. Males, and it kind of becomes like a key attribute of how, the very initial coping measures that somebody has, and when they're discovering their body, kind of coats how they're going to be through their life in a way. Just kind of a quick instance. A lot of times, males get stuck. Hold on 1 minute. Get out of here. Yeah, little kids, boy, they just can't follow the rules. I had one of my children disobeying a rule coming up in here, and he knows he's not supposed to. And he had a toy, and like he's just trying to see. They just gotta push the boundaries just to see what's going to happen. So it's like, do you just get vicious with them, and as soon as they do the wrong thing, you just get vicious with them? Well, that just makes them kind of scared. They're still going to push the boundaries. Yeah, basically. Always looking for the next stage, so they're always trying to get there, get the next thing. See, I don't know what I'm going to do with that portion yet. Yep. There's a whole lot going on now with like Trump and this whole political thing, and I've noticed such like venom and poison associated with him, with Trump. I don't remember. I don't remember. I guess I just wasn't in it enough, in the political scene enough, or whatever. But it doesn't seem like with a lot of the other presidents that there was like this backlash from like this kind of like I don't know. I'm trying to describe these groups of people without being too connotative, but it just seems like that the group of people that's spurting out the most about Trump, like that they were the ones that were saying like nonviolence and to keep your cool and to not get emotional, and they're the ones that are getting like violent and emotional about things. It's just kind of, and maybe I'm wrong. I'm kind of on the outside of this. I really don't think it matters too much. It matters who the president is. Don't get me wrong, but I think it more matters on who the president is because of how people are going to act, how people are going to respond, more than what the president's going to do. I think that's actually the most powerful component is how people are going to respond, not what they're going to do, or not what the president is going to do. Because the president's kind of like in the light, and like, I mean, they are powerful, don't get me wrong, they're extremely powerful. But they kind of have to have like everybody on their side. You know what I'm saying? That's like the thing. We want to blame people for things, but like leaders and stuff for things, but it's not really the leaders. Like we want to blame Walmart for being Walmart, but do we shop at Walmart? You know what I'm saying? Walmart doesn't have money unless we're giving it to them for the products. And how can we? I think that a lot of that would honestly get resolved. A lot of these issues that exist would really be resolved if people were actually honest with themselves. They weren't always just trying to like personify that they're the good guy, that they're actually like trying to figure out what the hell's actually going on instead of just expecting to know what's going on. And there's a lot of expectation out there. That's one thing that I think everybody would constantly agree on, is that we're expecting a lot to happen. but but we don't do a lot about it. It's this one time I was I was working at McDonald's, or wait, Burger King. I was working at Burger King. This was in uh this was in 2010. I was working in Burger King, and I saw these people, right? This person that kind of got my attention. And this guy, like there was a girl, and then there was a guy there, right? And the guy looked kind of like my stepdad. Not my my father-in-law. And the female, I didn't recognize her, but I recognized her. It's kind of real weird. Like I recognized these people. They looked real important. And I didn't know who they were, you know what I'm saying? But I knew, like, it's a real weird experience. And those people, they were something. And like when he came in, when the man came in, he said something. He said, "Man cub." Like he walked in the building and said, "Man cub." He said it kind of like loud and stylized. And then he kind of like came up and got his order, and like was kind of like looking everything like real, like, I don't know. It's kind of difficult to describe how this person was looking at things, but he's looking at stuff like he kind of never seen it before. You know what I'm saying? He's looking at it like it wasn't a completely foreign idea. Just like like you would look at something, like if you went into like an 1800 style restaurant. You know what I'm saying? Imagine going into an 1800s restaurant in ancient Europe. Like how you would look at shit. He was looking at stuff like that. Like it was really weird and like real interesting, and like this is how they did it back then kind of look. And then they ordered their burgers, they ordered their sandwiches. They actually uh I was like making chicken sandwiches, and I made their sandwiches. And then the guy uh came up and said that the sandwich was really good. Like, it's like, "Oh, it's a really good sandwich." Dude, I don't know, man. I've had a lot of this experience isn't even quite, there's more to it. Okay, so later on, like a week or so, maybe a couple days later, maybe just like 2 or 3 days later, I was in my trailer. I was actually living in a trailer then, and my buddy was over there, and we were hooking up computers to do a landline game. Like we're playing with computers, trying to landline this to do this computer game. And and I heard a vehicle outside the trailer, like heard and kind of like heard somebody talking. You know how trailers are, you can hear through them like paper. Kind of like heard somebody was outside. And so then I looked through the door and they couldn't hear me. And dude, outside my trailer was like a brand new Mercedes-Benz Land Rover with people in it. You know what I'm saying? There's people, there's a brand new, it was like $100,000 vehicle out there. It was brand new, badass Mercedes Land Rover, which in where it was in Southern Illinois, like there's not a whole lot of people that have a vehicle like that. You know what I'm saying? Like no one. So I was like, what the hell? And then I went to the front of the room and I looked out the room, and there was that dude, that weird guy that came into the Burger King, was looking at everything like it was weird. And that there was a female in the passenger seat, and then I'm pretty sure there was at least one or two more people in the back. He pulled forward, dude, and said, "Say cheese," and took a picture of me, right? And I kind of was like, "Who the fuck are you?" I was like, "Who are you?" And the woman in the car was like freaking out and like hiding her face, and all I could see was her hair, and she had like reddish auburn hair. And they were like, the little girl was like, "We got to get out of here now." And then the guy that was driving, he looked over at me. I said, "Who are you?" He looked over at me and he said, "I'm a friend," and he meant it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can tell when somebody's saying something. No, he meant it. But I don't know who he was. You know what I'm saying? I don't know who that person was. Other than he was that guy that I saw at Burger King that ordered, did the sandwich, and it was that guy. So they freaked out, and then my buddy was there, and I was like, what the fuck? I came in and I was like, what the hell? He's like, your friends are taking pictures of you. And Kale's his name. Kale's like, what? Wow, what the hell? This is crazy. So then I jumped in my car and tried to chase them, and they were already gone. They hightailed it out of the trailer park pretty damn fast. And I didn't see him again. And it kind of like messed with me a while. There's a lot of weird stuff going on at that time in my life. This was before this was when I had a lot of theories that I hadn't received any proof on some of my theories about extraterrestrials and human beings and like what the hell's going on. And I didn't see those people again, right? But the man, my son, has the exact same eyes that man did, and my daughter has the exact same hair that lady did. Something like, I have a very strong intuition that they're like my daughter and son from a different reality or the future. Very, very strong, very, very strong intuition. When I saw those people, when I saw them the first time, I was very much like, I thought that they were just like really important, really special people. Felt very attracted. Like these people are something more than just normal people. Like I thought they were maybe elites or something. Like the guy was really well taken care of, and like kind of like looked like my stepdad. You know what I'm saying? Like kind of like looked like not my stepdad, my father-in-law. And had, kind of like brown, like blondish, kind of platinum like hair, kind of like my dad and my father-in-law. Which just like, it kind of like stuck with me, dude. Like it stuck, like those people, that experience didn't really go away. I just kind of kept on. I can remember their face, dude. I remember their face, and I remember that woman's hair. And the woman, I only saw like a portion of her face, And right out the side of my eye, I thought it was my sister. I thought it was my sister Elaine. And then I looked, and then she like as soon as I like tried to look at her, she hid her face and kind of like went away. But the man was still just standing up, and he was staring right at me. He wasn't afraid to look at me. But that girl wouldn't look at me, dude. But I saw her hair, and she has the exact same hair as my daughter, and my daughter doesn't have a common color hair, man. It's like a red auburn color hair. It's so crazy to say it, dude. It's so crazy to say it, but man, I really think maybe they're from the future. They're like my children from the future or a different time thread or something. Like I really do feel that, man. Like it's so crazy. It's so far out. It just doesn't seem like it could be real, but I really, really feel that that's might be what they are, dude, who those people were. And there are some I can't really remember. There's something else about that experience that's really, really, really weird that like was extra evidence. Like, man, oh my gosh, maybe this is my children. And he was older. The guy was older than I am now. And here's another like real crazy thing. So if you take our current line of technology, like if you take like the advancement rate that it's advancing, some technological theorists say that we'll have time travel and interstellar travel in 50 years. And they said that in 2015 when the Padiak barrier was broken. There's this what's called the Padiak barrier, which is like a size of an actual spatial size versus computational power in accordance with in relative to the human brain size. And the Padiak barrier has been broken, and along with that, there's like all these other, Isaac Asimov and all these other technological theorists. In the early days of technology, in the early 1900s, they put forth kind of these theories and these predictions that once technology gets to a certain level, it starts to advance itself at a certain level, that it kind of takes over. Well, we've kind of reached that point with the Padiak barrier being broken, that some of these, like, we've actually advanced further than what some of these theorists had thought we would be right now. You know, so dude, maybe it's possible. What if some sort of experiment was done way back in the day, and they actually are developing time travel and they get it down? That would almost kind of, because they've found things, man. There's like stuff that they found in archaeology, like they found like machined hammers and machined bolts and bedrock that's so like like millions of years old. They found things that science tries to disprove, that maybe it's so hard to know. It's so hard to know when things are extraordinary. Like the first thing we do when something is extraordinary is say it can't be real. You know, it's like it's so easy to do that, especially when you're talking about being visited by your kids from the future. That sounds like crazy. You know what I'm saying? Which I think, here's kind of something I think, dude. So I used to study neurology, and I got into case studies. And I can't remember these patients' names, but there's a couple people that I ran across. I think that they were crazy right now. They are crazy right now. But I think that it was something that caused them to become crazy. Like that they had a very, very real experience that their brain could not process, that was so outside of the norm of what they thought could be accepted as reality, that processing that information and going through that experience traumatized their brain and kind of triggered an insane response. Because I tell you what, dude, I don't know if I've talked about the Whitney experience. So I had this crazy experience that shook my very core of reality, dude, on so many levels. it opened up a huge stream of experiences for me that delve into a multitude of craziness encounters of the fifth, sixth, third kind. Um, which is like I like almost skeptical to even talk about it because I feel crazy talking about it, dude. It's so out of the ordinary. It's so cool, so amazing, so outside of what I accept, what is mainstream accepted as real. But man, like the Whitney experience, dude. I've told that I've related this experience to several like psychologists. I've actually gone to psychologists and talked to professionals about this experience, and uh, well, it's a real experience. You know what I'm saying? I'm not making it up. I didn't have uh like a brain lesion. I don't have any brain lesions or anything wrong with my brain. Like uh I've gotten an MRI. You know, I went and actually got like neurologically checked out because I thought something might be wrong with me because of the different experiences that I was having, what I was starting to see in reality. And it all started with, you know, perception. That's really where it started. Is I started working on my perception, and I started doing sensory deprivations, um, which led to a heightened level of perception and awareness. Which, you know, what do you expect when you have a heightened sense of awareness and perception? That means you're going to see and know things that are outside of what other people know and see. So if you do sensory deprivation and you do perceptual training with me, expect to perceive the world differently. Duh. You know, so that's just one thing that I kind of like came to grips with is that if you work on advancing things, yeah, man. Hey, it was nice talking to you, Darren. Thanks for coming to the show. I'm gonna do more. I don't know how many people are listening, but I'm doing it. Have a good day at work. Blessings, my friend. I don't even remember what I was talking about. Probably something dumb. Uh, oh yeah, I was talking about the Whitney experience. Yeah, that was a really weird. That was a really weird one, dude. I mean, it sounds so crazy, but you know, you shouldn't limit yourself to thinking that it's only humans on this planet. You know, like people think that the Earth is flat and they want to see the curvature of the Earth and stuff, but you got to get really far away to see the curvature of the Earth. The planet's really, really big. You know, we want to live in the society where we feel like it's safe and controlled. We don't want to feel that we might be like on a galactic like oasis hub, kind of like prison colony thing. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to really know that, like, just like Men in Black, the movie Men in Black said, dude, we don't really want to know how close our government is to going to war with like other countries and shit, let alone what diseases might be out there that could come on some random alien visiting our planet. You know, there's a lot that people could worry about. You know, there's always something to worry about. That goes without saying, I guess. Always something to worry about. There's always something to worry about, you know. What do we do? Well, what if? I think that there's actually some real value in talking about this. I have noticed that when my brain thinks, yeah, but what if this happens? It almost never happens. To the point to where, like now, when I hear my brain say, "Oh, what if that's going to happen? Oh, what if you left the door unlocked to the Paris Center and somebody gets in there and they might steal something. Well, I have noticed that when my brain thinks like that, it's not going to happen. It's almost like it's just my brain saying this isn't going to happen. But what sucks is there's this associated feeling with, oh my gosh, what if, say, what if it's real? How do you get rid of that what if fear? Boy, I don't think we want to get rid of that fear. That's like getting rid of pain. We actually don't want to get rid of pain. If you get rid of pain, how are you going to know you're sitting on something cutting you? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you can't get rid of pain. I feel that when I stopped trying to avoid pain, when I stopped trying to go away from pain, I feel like that's when it really started to grow. It happened a while ago. I was like, that's it. I'm going to figure out pain. And one of the things I identified is that there's lots of different types of pain. There's like the owie pain when you stub your toe. There's the, oh shit, I almost cut off my finger pain. You know what I'm saying? Which is like, surprisingly, it doesn't really hurt that bad a lot of times. Like the initial injury, right when it first happens, almost like for me, a lot of times it's the fear of, oh shit, I broke something on my body. Like that's kind of what wells up in me a little bit more than the actual pain. For me, it almost hurts more healing than the hurt part. I about cut off my finger one time. Mega deep laceration, like cut into the bone. I had to have reconstructive surgery on my finger. It was pretty bad. About lost my finger. But when I did it, it didn't even really hurt right when it happened. It just kind of felt like I pulled, like I tugged my skin a little bit further up my arm. Like it didn't even hurt right where I cut my finger. It just kind of like tugged. I was like, oh shit. So I went inside and I looked. I didn't even see where I was like, shit. And then I saw, then I saw where it was. I was looking in the wrong spot. And so there's all these different types of pain, and we have to really understand that. If we can really understand pain, then you can really heal. I don't know if we can heal unless you understand pain, unless you really go into your pain. I think that maybe it stops hurting for a little bit, but you're probably just going to injure it again. It's a wild journey. We make it a journey for ourselves. Do we take our time in it? I think that it's very valuable to take your time. I really do. I really feel it's valuable. I used to rush a lot in life. And then I kind of stopped rushing. I started taking my time in life. And I noticed that the more time I took in life, the more time I had. I mean, and then I started really listening to these words as I'm talking to myself. The more time I took in life, the more time I had. And no one's going to give you time. People will buy time from you. They'll pay you $50 an hour to come and clean their carpets and fix their roof, right? They'll pay you $10 an hour to come sweep their floors or whatever. But they don't, it's not like, it's not like they offer you hours. You know what I'm saying? There's no job you can get that pays time. No one can give you time. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you work at Hardee's for 2 hours and then you get paid 3 hours for working 2 hours. No, you get paid money for working. That time, you spend that time. You exchange that time for money. And here's what I've learned. Here's a very important part that we should all know and taken right at this point is that you have to chop wood and carry water if you want water and heat. Like you need wood to make heat. And you're not going to have wood to make heat unless you chop it. So there's a certain amount of work that you do in life for homeostasis comfort. It's inevitable. Even if you're the king of Connie, you have to stand up. No one can make you stand up. There's like the king has people that dress him, right? But you still have to wear the clothes. You know what I'm saying? You still have to stand up. There's like all this effort. We want to think that, oh, kings don't have to shovel gravel, right? Dude, but kings have to make decisions that can weigh very, very heavily on them. Unless they advocate power. And then you're not king. You've advocated. Only you can give you time. And time is not a variable. Time is very, very allotted. Like there are 24 hours, 365 days. There's so much definite time that exists. How do you give yourself time? How do you do that? You know what I'm saying? You can't like package time up and here you go. Here's one time and 30 seconds. You can't you can't give time like that. So how do you do it? You take it. You only get time by taking your time. No one gives you time. So here's a little bit of the function that works behind that. Why does that work? Why is it that when I'm playing and I'm super distracted in playing, like there's a bunch of stuff going on, and it's woo, and there's water slides and kids running everywhere, blah, 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 how come that time goes so dang fast? But when I'm sitting there in the doctor's office and my kid has an ear infection and we got to get antibiotics, but we got to wait for the doctor to say the blah, 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 and it just goes on and on and on. And you're waiting. And really, it's only about an hour and a half. But man, that hour and a half seems like it lasts forever. Yeah, why? Because you're thinking about one thing. It kind of goes down to the breakdown of what time is. If you take your time, you have more of it. And it almost feels like there's some sort of outside thing that tries to make us be in a rush. Like I see it. I see everybody's in a big rush. We were at work all day, and boy, I just want to get home. And they're like, oh, I just want, and they'll come to a stop sign, and there's another stop sign 1 block ahead, right? And they gas it, dude, like, whoa, 3,500 RPM, burning tons of gas, and then slam on the brake just in time to barely stop, and then gas it again. And the whole time in this huge rush, right? And thinking all these thoughts, like I'll do this and I can do, and your time is just peeling away so dang fast when it's like that. Days are gone in a heartbeat, dude. How do you have more time? Where do you get it from? You can't put it in a bag. You can't store it in a battery. You can only take it. You can only take your time. One step at a time. If you try to take your time, 50 steps at a time, then you got all that time wound up with all them steps and it's just pissed away. And for me, what I found is that when I started taking my time, I started doing a lot better at things also. Started becoming very proficient. No, I didn't waste as much. I don't consume as much. Uh, because of that, because of there's these auxiliary functions that came out of taking your time. You have less mistakes. You have less redos. The time that I would spend cleaning up the mess from rushing, there's no mess when you take your time. You just boop, 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 and nothing gets messed up. So what is rushing us? I think that delving into that is challenging. And I don't know how much it's going to change the outcome. It may just be best to just realize who it is talking. You know what I'm saying? Is it the adversary? Is it the one that's trying to take me downhill, or is it the one that's trying to take me uphill? Is it the one that's trying to make me more disciplined and more powerful and more self-reliant and more integrated with reality and more integrated with my own psychology? Is it one that is integrating me to reality, integrating me to discipline, or is it the one that is misleading me? Going back to the earliest cartoons, man, everybody knows that there's a bad angel and there's a good angel on your shoulder. And whatever we label these things as, fairies, jinn, angels, yourself in a future existence, in another quantum reality. I don't know. Who cares? I guess that shit don't even matter who it is, where they are. It just matters what they're doing. And like once you figure out this jackass is always misleading me, then who cares? If it's Satan or Santa or Sabina, I don't know, dude. So I had this experience, man. I saw something one time. I saw this truth of reality. And this truth of reality that I saw was that like Jesus is real and Muhammad is real and Bodhisattva is real and Icarus is real and Satsuan is real and all these people, all these mythological characters, spiritual leaders, aliens, angels and demons and all this shit's real, dude. That they all exist. And that the manifestation reality can be quantum, it can be temporal, it can be material, it can be imaginary. Like there's so many levels of existence. But it kind of all doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like it all doesn't matter. What matters is what you harmonize with. In this vision that I had, I saw how like Christianity is this like facet of Hinduism. How like this like savior principle, this like concept that something can be saved eventually through the fractal composition, pattern, complexity, manifestation, drive of existence, that it created these complexities that exist. And will other complexities will continue to exist. I don't think that we're going to see the end of complexities forming. I think that as humans go on, we're going to find new life forms, we're going to find new thought forms, we're going to find new religions and stories. And the complexities aren't going to stop. I think that the complexities are only going to continue. The patterns, and that's not going to stop. The deeper we dig, the more we're going to find, the more questions we're going to have. You know, scientists thought they knew everything until all of a sudden they realized that there's this quantum equations that exist. And then they started looking at that and they started being like, holy crap, man, nothing's real and everything's real. And then some scientists kind of lost it. I have cats. You might be able to hear them now. They're like trying to get up. You know how cats are. Like they want to get in the camera. Like if you wanted to take a picture of them, they ain't gonna want to get in the camera. But if you don't want them in that space, like I'm painting, like right here, you know what I'm saying? Like right here, I have like a camera and I'm like focused all right here. I have like I'm preparing paint down here and like I'm getting ready to do stuff. And so what's gonna happen? Well, of course the cat's gonna want to walk through the paint and then jump up here and fart or something. You know what I'm saying? Like they can't oh cats. Cats and kids kind of like they're all it's almost like they're like the same thing manifesting in these different ways of like learning this, of like new life butting in and trying to learn and grow. And cats are something different. They're different than the other animals. I've always thought so, and I've had so many weird anomalies happen with cats. This one time, uh, I was living in Southern Illinois at the time, Carbondale, Southern Illinois. I think this was in 2008, 2007, 2009, somewhere around there. Anyways, my sister had come down with her boyfriend, and they were staying with us for the night or 2 nights or whatever, however long they were going to be there. So they're staying with us, and everybody has cats. We all know they act crazy when you have guests over, right? Well, they're acting a little different. They were acting a little odd. And like I looked over at that cat was passed away. That cat doesn't live any longer. His name was Vaughn. And I looked over and I said to Vaughn, I said, "What's going on, buddy? What's wrong?" And then he was just looking around and like trying to like hide under things and on top of stuff, and he was just acting really weird about stuff. And I said that. I said, "What's going on, buddy? What's wrong?" And he like looked around and I felt in my head, I felt the ground is gonna go up and down like water. That's what I felt in my head. And I was like, wow, I was like, how is the ground going to go up and down like water? That sounds like an earthquake. That's what earthquakes, some earthquakes, they're rumbly and some earthquakes are shaky, like they go back and forth. Some of them go up and down, and some of them are like waves, like it's like a wave that goes through the ground. Uh, so I was like, boy, it sounds like he's talking about an earthquake. Like that's what I thought in my head. I was like that was the cat talking in my head. Uh, I was like, boy, it sounds like he's, I think we're gonna have an earthquake. That's what I said. I was like, he said we're gonna have. Actually, I think I said that Vaughn said we're gonna have an earthquake. I was like, I don't know, but that's a cat. I don't know. I don't do cats. And I was like, I don't know. Do cats have telepathy or something? And I always kind of make comments like that. So I'm weird, and everybody knows I'm weird. My family, they know I think weird things, and I'm comfortable with that. They're comfortable with that. We're all comfortable with that. But uh, it's because everybody's comfortable with it. They don't think I'm, take Ivan to the nut word, because it's like I say stuff like that, and then at 5 o'clock in the morning there's an earthquake, and that's exactly what happened. Literally, I think it was 5 o'clock in the morning. Maybe it was 3. I don't remember exactly what time it was, but we were sleeping, and then the cat jumped up on the bed, he's scared. He jumped up on my bed, and I grabbed him. I'm like, it's okay, buddy. And then boom, 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 boom. Whole everything starts just boom, 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 boom. You know how earthquakes are. If you don't, everything just starts shaking. It starts shaking or sliding or moving about. Everything, like the house, and just everything's rattling. And my wife was sleeping in bed next to me, and she woke up and she's like, "Oh, man!" She's kind of like freaking out. And I was like, "Oh, it's like, baby, it's fine. Go back to bed. It's only like a 4.0 or maybe a 6 at the most." I think it's under a 6.0. It's fine. Go back to sleep. I knew. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know like the cats knew, but the cats told me, and I chose to believe them. Or I don't even. Let's say it's the most correct. I asked a question while looking at the cat. I directed the question at the cat by name. I said, Vaughn. I said, Vaughn, what's wrong, buddy? And then I felt in my head, in like, it wasn't words, it was more like imagery. I felt in my head imagery of the cat. Like I saw the cat, like I was looking from like behind the cat, and he was going up and down, like he was like he's taking his paws and going up and down like that. Like that's the imagery that I had in my head. It wasn't exactly words, it was just kind of images and feeling. And then I translated it into words, and I was like, yeah, I was like, it looks, that he said that the image was of something saying the ground is going to go up and down. And then I was like, oh, that sounds, how would the ground go up and down? The ground would go up and down because of an earthquake. Like that's how the earth moves, is through earthquakes. And sure enough, man, I mean, it was 100% accurate. That morning at 5 in the morning, we had an earthquake. Now I didn't, like successfully predict it as in like the time, but I mean that happened. That's legit. My sister Elaine, her now husband Grant, and my wife can all attest to that story, and I'm pretty sure I got it word for word. So like I guess that and that's not the only experience. I've had quite a few experiences, in particular earthquake experiences with earthquakes and animals. I used to have horses. Uh, my horse, my last horse, Sky, recently passed away, so I don't have horses anymore. Um, but at one time, in my life, I did. I had two horses, and there one time I was riding Sky, and he started getting freaked out about the ground, and I was like, "It's all right, buddy. It's all right." You know, kind of calmed him down, and then he's like, "Oh, everything's fine." Then he acted kind of normal, and then we had an earthquake, dude. A couple hours later, boom. We had an earthquake. I mean, it was like a 4.8 or something. Just enough to kind of rattle everything. It was a rattler. So it's all this stuff that I'm going to be teaching and talking about. It comes from experience. It comes from years of study and years of experience. And I try not to there's a lot of experiences that I could talk about, but I don't really have like evidence. You know what I'm saying? I don't have people that could validate it, or I don't have like an artifact. So I'm leery to talk about a lot of those experiences because they're very subjective. But I have early on in my mental existence, I realized that I wanted to I wanted to be able to actually know what reality is. Like I realized real early on, I think it was my dad that demonstrated how people like can just believe complete falsehood, just believe something that is overtly wrong and just like choose to believe it because they want to believe that. Like, I mean, kudos to the man, but like that's high willpower to like be confronted with very real evidence on things and then just choose to believe something else. Like that's awesome, but it kind of seems like a fallacy to do. Uh, to do that with yourself like that seems like it'd be incorrect. But so I tried to, early on I tried to like wire my perceptions. I tried to really see reality and feel and know what was true. uh and so when I talk about things, I really seek to be correct. That's why sometimes I'll communicate the way that I do and I use the words that I do, is because I'm really seeking to be correct on a high level, on like a universal pragmatic level of correctness. And so that's why I'm a little leery, like to talk about some things like encounters with demons and encounters with aliens and encounters with angels and encounters with these different entities. It's like a lot of, no one was there. I don't have pictures. I don't have artifacts. I encourage people to know and believe what they know and believe. But I guess that a lot of times I really want them to believe what I feel is true reality. And that's one of my motivations behind doing this. That's kind of why I'm here. And that's being honest. A lot of times people will be conflicting. They'll say, "Oh, I don't want to change what you believe." And like, why are you talking then? I think that that's why you talk. That's why we do things, is we want to change what other people believe. And I want to say that the correct way for me is I don't know if I really want to change what people believe. If they're believing what they choose to believe, what they're believing what they believe. Because I think that a lot of people, they don't believe what they choose to believe. I think that a lot of people believe what they feel is not going to get them ridiculed. What they feel is the most powerful. What they feel is the winner. I think that a lot of people don't care to like wire the mental facets to actually be able to understand reality on that level. That they want to be spoon fed reality. And I think that very strong evidence for this theory is that it exists, is that we have politicians, we have institutions that spoon feed information, history, technology. They spoon feed us this stuff. And, it's one of the things that I've tried to do in my teaching is to realize that somebody is in their heaven. Uh, my dad said something to me one time. I was talking to him about some of his perceptions, some of his societal perceptions and political views. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I said something to him. I made like a huge argument, and like really it was like a rock solid argument. And my dad said, boy, you just got to think you know everything, don't you? And I was like, Dad, I just want to talk about what I think is real, man. And he's like, you could go shoot out somebody else's tires. And what he was talking about is that he had a viewpoint that because of what I said, it destroyed that viewpoint. You know, I shot, he was driving somewhere in his little personal thought, and I blew out his tires so he couldn't travel anymore in that little thought. And it was uncomfortable for him. And you know, and I look back and I was like, what the hell was I even trying to do? Was I like I saw that this person, you know, like my dad's like successful. You know what I'm saying? And like he's you know, he's financially successful. You know, so and he's comfortable. So like what the hell am I gonna do? You know, making this dude uncomfortable just so he could know the reality of some sort of religious point or whatever it was that I was talking about, you know. It made me do some real like searching, you know, what is it? Because I know this. You know, I know that love leads to beneficialness. Like the more love that there is, the better things get. I know that. So why am I going to do anything to mess that up for anybody, you know? I don't remember exactly what I was that I said to him that, you know, got him upset, but I said something to him that made him feel bad, you know? And I wasn't wrong, I was correct. Like whatever it was I was talking about. But what was my motivation factor behind it? That was one thing I really started like looking at a little bit more. You know, what is my motivation behind this? Why am I actually doing this? I think it's important to always be honest with yourself. Well, hey, I'm coming up on 2 minutes and or 2 hours and 20 minutes. I think that's going to be about it for tonight. I look forward to communicating with you again. Thanks for listening to this. Please subscribe. Uh, if any of this resonates with you or sounds cool or interesting, in the future, I'm going to continue doing this. I'm going to be mixing up some paint. I'm going to have some paint mixed up for the next episode. I think I know what I'm going to do here the next time, as far as the painting goes. Got a little bit done today. Got some little highlights around there. Little highlight around that. A little highlight there. A couple little things here and there. Figured out what I'm going to do with some stuff. Got a little work to done. I say I take my time. I'm not trying to get this done. I don't have any timeline. I'm the boss. I do what I want. It's my painting. But it's coming along. A lot of work to be done. A lot of work to be done. I got a lot of stuff I want to do with this. It's really just beginning. As is with this live stream. Hopefully, we can get some better technology and make this a little bit cooler as far as like fun to look at and whatnot. So yeah, I'm interested to see what material you guys think that is right there. Not the red and the blue substance, but that, and how I did that with it. And that. How did I create that? I'd be interested to see what people think about how I made these things. It's a somewhat very abnormal artistic process. I haven't heard of anybody else incorporating this and this into a painting in this way. Probably did. I mean, as soon as you think you're making something new, it's like then that's when you open up the encyclopedia to what you just discovered. You know, like, oh look, I just invented the wheel. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, no. But I'll be interested to see what people think. I'll be doing these. I'm thinking about once a week, but we'll see. Many blessings to y'all, and hope you enjoy this. Have a good night.